sun is numb, the Keurig's clean, your dog is dead, it's a Ponzi screen. Ponzi screen, Ponzi screen, because it's just something to do.
I am so excited to be here, and let me start off the podcast by saying Feliz Dia de los Muertos a mi podcast hermanos David y Gabriel.
I love you trying. I love it, dude.
I tried.
That was like
I
the international soccer announcer, the football announcer.
Yeah. I tried. I was like, I really hope I do not offend Gabe.
You just went straight into it. I was laughing at Gabe's side eye. Really?
Yeah. Punto.
Yeah, that's great, dude. That was awesome.
Nice,
you know,
dude, yeah.
yesterday, I mean, you know, it doesn't matter when this comes out, but yesterday was Halloween, and
Spoiler alert.
and today is Dia de los Muertos, and I hope everybody out there watches Coco. Just watch Coco.
Mhm.
It's great. It's the best.
Oh, it's so good.
I love Latin America. I love all things Spanish speaking. Also, I like things Portuguese as well. Like,
Sure.
I like.
Portuguese.
I remember in Williamsburg, this old Brazilian dance party bar, Bembe, and you know, that's something that we can't go do now. We can't go dance at Bembe because of you know, because we have to wear
COVID.
masks.
Yeah.
But as soon as we
Yeah.
get a vaccine, David y Danielle, well, let's
Yeah.
go to a Brazilian dance party together.
That would be such a nice like Ponzi Scream live show. It's like it's like a Bembe dance class. Really?
Yeah, I'd love to see you guys like just try out some rudimentary capoeira moves
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that'd be cool.
on stage.
I remember right as I was starting college, I had people who lived in like the dorm rooms next to me who literally said, "Oh, dude, we're going out to the park to do some capoeira." Like
That is like
and
the
it was-
epitome of like 17-year-old white dude.
yeah,
That, you know,
Yeah.
it's like you're into capoeira right in the same time that you're really into like walking on the tightrope and hookahs. It's kind of all the same aesthetic for a certain milieu of weight.
I'm a slacklining and hacky sack bro myself. I like both those.
Yeah. Are you good?
Yeah. I'm not a good slackliner, but I remember when those kids first started doing it in McCarran Park. There was a small collective of slackliners, and that first generation of them went on to like tour the world, leading workshops.
I thought you were gonna say
Yeah.
like they went on to found Google or something.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think that Google probably has as one of its extracurricular activities on campus
Oh,
a
totally.
slacklining workshop
Oh,
right
it's
next
got
to the juggling workshop.
Yeah, I'm sure. Right next to like
yeah.
the 4-star chefs that they took away from the restaurants,
Uh
and
huh.
now like are working in the kitchens for like $500,000 a year.
They brain drained all the Michelin restaurants in Northern California.
Yes. This is like a thing that I have a real big point of contention with Silicon Valley, because I've never been to Palo Alto, but everyone says it is devoid of culture completely. And I'm like, couldn't these tech bros get like a cool girlfriend to open up a cool bar in Palo Alto? And it seems like the answer to that is no, because Google has hired the girlfriend too. To make them like the in-house cool person or something like that. The campus chef.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
cool. Like, you know how like every campus dorm has a RA? Like
Yeah.
the Google campus has
Yes.
like party people, or like
Yeah.
they're like, what is your title? I'm a on-campus charismatic. And like your job
oh
is
my
just
God.
to bring good vibes.
That's
I'm a-
too real.
I'm a
Like,
muse
too real.
coordinator.
Yeah. What up, bros? Hey, I just came during your coffee break. I'd love to share these hot memes with you. You guys ready for my dank memes? And you just like you have like 5 or 6 different text threads, and you like you've got pods that you send your memes
Yeah.
to, and then you're like, oh shit, dude, I just made this like Gruyere like grilled cheese. It's dope. You guys should try it. Like, here's the recipe for it. Would anybody like some bites?
Yeah. That dude,
Yeah.
they're gonna hire that guy, and then they're going to hire my RA in college, which
Oh.
was my friend Jeremy, who would just hang out in his room wearing the oldest pair of Converse I have ever seen, and just doing too good at Tetris on the highest level. Literally just like being like, "Hey dude, how's it going?" And just
Oh,
like
yeah.
blocks,
Oh, yeah.
blocks,
Oh, yeah.
holding a conversation.
Hell
I love
yeah.
those guys. I
I
love
want-
those guys, and I love like adults who are way too good, like who can actually solve a Rubik's cube and are just carrying around a Rubik's cube with them everywhere. That's like the same kind of guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
It's awesome.
Also, it's sad too because I'm just finishing up listening to Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain,
Mhm.
R.I.P. And it's becoming more and more evident that if he were born 30 years later, he would not work in like the Rainbow Room or the back of some like greasy spoon diner, but rather would literally be the chef at like a Google campus, because they're just sort of like, yeah, the money's good, and he's just like, all right, I will do that.
He'd be the omelet man for Apple.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Well, today on Ponzi Scream, we are here before the election, and it's just crazy that we have predicted everything that has happened so far. You're listening to this now after the election, and it's just kind of, I think that you all should just be impressed by us. If you subscribe to our Patreon, you'll hear some exclusive content about us predicting Texas down to the specific vote count.
That's right. That's right.
Subscribe to the Patreon, and you can hear why our analysis on how North Carolina was polled was inaccurate for Jorgensen. And you can also subscribe and hear why Arizona is the new home of the DSA left. And
Yes.
those are all sorts of things that you can get, and we are very proud of the fact that we called the election very strongly for name redacted, and we will stand by our electioneering and poll analysis until the day we die. But in the meantime, we're going to get to something much more important, and that is Brazilian meat producers being charged by the SEC for bribing Brazilian securities regulators. And what is amazing about this story, this happened earlier in October. So there are these Brazilian billionaires, this family called the Batista family.
Brazilianaires, thank you.
Yes.
Brazilian. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you got it. Yeah. There's only. Yeah. Okay. Brazilianaires.
Brazzers zillionaires. They've made a lot of money off of pornography. Brazzers zillionaires.
Okay, well, anyways, I think Gabe got it right the first time. So the SEC charges the Batista family, the Josley Batista and Wesley Batista, and their companies, J&F Investimentos and JBS, which is the global meat and protein producer, a protein producer.
Ew.
Yeah. And so basically they paid $27 million to the SEC. There was this big bribery scheme that was taking place over the course of multiple years. Basically, how this all happened, the JBS family, or the JBS company, is a very interesting company. The Batistas are very interesting people. They, according to their Wikipedia page, were heavily accused of and being a part of the bribery schemes that took down former president of Brazil, Lula, and also Dilma Rousseff, leading to the Bolsonaro regime, who is now in power. And the JBS billionaires basically have just been bribing everyone in Brazil. That's just kind of how they operate.
Yeah.
And that's just that's their thing. And, let them, have their own space. And, we want to create a safe space for that. However, they made a bit of a whoopsies, in 2009, they acquired Pilgrim's Pride Corporation, which is a chicken. Largely, it's like a chicken agro company, not like
Yeah.
aggressive chicken, but like agricultural chicken company. And you guys have seen Pilgrims before. Pilgrim's Pride, chicken, like eggs, will be in the grocery store. They're generally among the worst of the eggs. They're like the white styrofoam container with the blue and white logo. Do you guys know which one I'm talking about?
No, but
whatever. Yeah, so they're shitty eggs.
Okay,
I mean,
fine. Fine.
generally speaking, or specifically no, but generally I do relate to this shitty egg thing, because when I do buy eggs, you do like peruse the section and you'll be like, okay, let's see what we got here. And like some of the real natural eggs, they'll come in like an eco-friendly, like clear carton that you can recycle, and they're brown for whatever reason. And they're real big, and you're like, oh, those seem like healthy, good eggs. And then you do see the ones that are like, these chickens lived a horrible life eggs.
Yeah, I just I open up the cheap styrofoam jumbo eggs and I flip them over, and at least at my bodegas, half of them are like cracked or broken, and then I give up on eating chicken eggs, and I just get myself like 12 little blue quail eggs to eat.
Yeah. I'm going straight for the quail eggs.
Can I get a dozen of those little tiny eggs? Thank you.
I'm a little fancy boy. Also, Josely Batista, he's the 1,001 richest person in the world.
Oh, good for him.
At $2.1 billion. And him and his brother Wesley look like who are those guys? Who are those rich kids who were in the basketball card that killed their parents?
The basketball killing parents?
No, they were very famously shot. They were very, very famously in the background of a basketball card for a Knicks game. Do you guys remember that?
I just know the Melendez brothers.
The Menendez.
Yeah.
They look exactly like if they grew up. They look exactly like
that. Was the weirdest way to get us to the Menendez brothers, where you could have just said, "Remember those two psychopaths from L.A. that shotgunned their parents while they were in bed?"
Oh, I didn't remember that part.
You just remembered. Do you just remember people who were in the background of basketball photos? Is that your?
No, it was very well publicized. 3 years ago, they were like, if you buy this guy's rookie card, the Menendez brothers are in the background of this Knicks game.
That's
Okay,
great.
so
I learned something new on this pod.
Yeah. Ponzi Script's all about education, man. And the Joelsley brothers look like a basketball card. Is that the takeaway?
You could look Menendez brothers basketball card. It's one of the first things that pops up. Yeah, there they are. And if you guys want it, they're on one of Mark Jackson's basketball cards. Perfect.
Well, I think we found the graphic for this week's episode.
Yeah. So basically, what happened was the Batista brothers have this holding company called J&F Investimentos, and that company is an investment company that owns JBS, and JBS owns Pilgrim. Okay, following all that stuff. Okay, so through that they own Pilgrim, which is a U.S. company, right? This is a
subsidiary, one might say.
Now a subsidiary of the Brazilian company JBS, right?
Yes.
And this sort of stuff happens all the time. But because of that, they have to comply with American laws, and that includes FCPA, which is the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, which says that bribing is bad. That's the entire law. And that might not be the same thing in Brazil. We want to, be tolerant of other people's laws and the enforcement thereof. But Brazil's finance minister was getting approximately $150 million in bribes.
Woo!
Using in part funds from intercompany transfers, dividend payments, and other means. obtained from JBS operating accounts, okay, containing funds from pilgrims. That's where the SEC can get in, is because some of it is pilgrim money that's going to the Brazil finance minister, right? And so,
Yeah.
yep.
I was just gonna say, it's one of those things where these guys, if they are Brazilian beef producers, it means that they are also cutting down the rainforests.
Oh yeah.
as well. They're big time cutting down the rainforest. That's a big issue with the Amazon, and as far as like agribusiness and beef production.
Yes. According to The Guardian, the JBS is the world's biggest meat company, by the way, which is pretty cool. Yeah. Yep. Doesn't have the biggest hog, but is the biggest meat company. And they are apparently a big part of getting cattle supplied from a farm in the Brazilian Amazon. Even though it's participating in some illegal deforestation, this is the 5th time in a year that allegations have surfaced connecting JBS to Amazon farmers linked with illegal deforestation. Okay, that's from July of this year. So yes, they are playing it both ways. Like with all billionaires, they are going to bribe Lula, and they're also going to profit from Bolsonaro, right?
Mhm.
Like they're very apolitical when it comes to. It doesn't matter if it's the social democrat Lula and Dilma Rousseff, or if it's the kind of like neo-fascist anti-environmentalist Bolsonaro.
You got to hedge your bets, man. Look, if you got money, it doesn't matter what team's in charge. Just got to be on the right side of that team.
Yeah, and more specifically, they could be fined by forgive me, what was the body that was fining them from the United States?
The
David?
SEC.
Yeah, the SEC. The SEC could fine them all they want, but I mean, I think it's sort of more of a question of, will we continue importing or exporting to them, like with their beef,
Oh yeah. I mean, think about this. I mean, the numbers on this are insane, right? These two billionaires had to pay $27 million. Okay, I'm not a scientist, but that's not very much money compared to compared to billions of dollars. And also, they had been bribing the Brazilian finance minister $150 million. So even the amount that they're paying that's just a tax. That's just a cost of doing business. It means nothing to them.
It's a tax that would be higher than any meaningful tax that we give billionaires in the United States if they were paying it as a tax there.
The punishment for bribing foreign elected officials is that you actually have to be taxed at all. A small amount.
Yes. They're like, oh darn it, you caught me.
Okay. So that's it's just, I don't know.
I'm doing a little bit of math right here, so we can get it correctly. Yeah, I mean, it's the equivalent. If all their wealth is like $1, it would be the equivalent of them dropping a penny on the ground, and then they just like whoop, keep going.
Yeah, love the Batistas. Yeah. It's very exciting, and they've found themselves to be in a bit of a pickle, because while you want to expand your multinational corporate empire all over the place, you also have to comply with all these different rules in different countries all of a sudden, and you can get a slap on the wrist from a bunch of different people. Who knows? Maybe they also got some sort of anti-bribery charge for owning a German company, or owning in a Chinese company or something like that, and then all of a sudden they're just getting little slaps on the wrist from all over the place. Every single jurisdiction you operate in and own as a subsidiary, you're gonna get a little bit of something from these bribery things.
Well, for me, the biggest takeaway is it's nice to put a face to the deforestation of the Amazon rainforest. These are the guys that are shooting the toucans in the face and chopping off their beaks and just creating more pastures for us to get cheap steaks and shitty eggs.
Mm-hmm. And they are the Menendez brothers. That's exactly who we're.
Yes, yes. Every breakfast cereal mascot is being shot in the face by a blunderbuss by these two guys. Tony the Tiger, the Toucan Sam, the Leprechaun. He lives in the Amazon now. I'm sure there's a Kix child that lives in the forest now, right?
Yeah, the Kix child lives in the forest now. The one who, kid tested, mom approved. Kid was tested actually with napalm.
Yes.
It was really fucked up. Actually, destroyed the Vietnamese forests. So this is a thing that's also been coming up as being a big the election is at hand a lot. Everyone's talking about it, but another huge development, really in the United States, for depending on who you talk to, one of the bigger developments in the economy that's happened recently has been this recent antitrust scrutiny of all the different tech firms, and the big ones have been and remain Apple, Amazon, Google, and who's the last one?
Facebook.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
So collectively, they have, everyone's been kind of railing on them, on the left and the right, actually. It's one of the antitrust scrutiny of Silicon Valley is one of the few things that some Republicans and some Democrats have in common that isn't starting a war, right? They this unites people like Representative Dave Cicilline. This unites Elizabeth Warren, but also people like Josh Hawley, who he was a Republican senator from Missouri, as he went to Stanford Law, also is from Kansas City, went to Rockhurst High School in Kansas City, very much a good old boy, prep school, and he is, for all of that, him being a conservative guy, he is very much critical of big tech monopolies. So in the House, when the Democrats retook control of the House, one of the things they started doing was doing some investigation into these big four: Facebook, Apple, Amazon, and Google. And they published a report. Representative Cicilline, I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name. He published this report that basically accused each of those four companies of committing different forms of antitrust violations, and those each one's got three big ones, and a lot of it has to do with stealing ideas of upstarts, cutting out competitors, and giving preferential treatment to personalized products, to affiliated products that are owned by these companies. And that is how antitrust enforcement is essentially enforced these days, right? So Microsoft had a pretty big and similar case against them in the 90s, which was they owned the software of, I think, Internet Explorer, and they also owned just an insane amount of computers. I mean, before the iPhone, everyone had only some form of a Microsoft computer. There was really no competition.
Hell yeah, with the Pentium 2 processor.
Yeah.
Loved Windows 95.
It was so good.
That was my jam, dude.
Dude, large swath. I mean, it's still funny because large swaths of the business chunk of stuff is still Microsoft. We think about Apple as this very synonymous thing, but it's still like, most businesses and what have you still largely use Microsoft-based operating systems.
Yeah, your dad will come home with a laptop, and you're like, "What is that? That's not a MacBook."
Yes.
Why do you have that trash laptop?
Brian absolutely is doing that. He's got his setup downstairs in the playroom with his recording studio. My dad is loving it. Yes.
I mean, yeah, there are definitely like a lot of business work is done still on Microsoft products, but Apple's really become a reasonably sized competitor, right? The iPhone is still outperforming any I mean, definitely any Microsoft product, but outperforming any Google product or anything else, or Samsung product for that matter.
Dude, when I used to see a politician on a BlackBerry in a photo, I was like, I'm not voting for this person.
Yes. Yeah. Dude, we still make fun of Android phones, even if they're like the top one. Like if it's like the Google Pixel or whatever, and you see somebody with an Android phone, they're just sort of like, "Damn, dude, you have did the government give you like a nice little gift because you were doing so bad? Like, what happened?"
I mean, they just don't. People care more about the fact that your text messages come in green than almost anything else.
Yes, that's hugely synonymous.
It's just like I don't care how fast this YouTube video is loading. I don't care how good the technology is for the pixelated, 4K or whatever. It's just like your text is in green. I can't tell whether you're typing or not, and I don't trust you.
That is a huge monopoly that Apple just has on its own, is whether or not you can know if somebody's typing. That's so important.
So what had happened was in 2012, the Federal Trade Commission, which is what the Obama administration, under the Obama administration, tried to look into some of these activities of Google, right? And a lot of what is alleged under Google is, look, Google is like 90% these days of all searches that occur are done.
That's right. Who's using DuckDuck? Who's using DuckDuck?
Yeah.
You know?
Go.
Yeah, dude. Looking at search results history is like looking at like the composition of the atmosphere. It's like 80% nitrogen, and then Bing is the oxygen, and then DuckDuckGo is like argon. Just like disparate elements of it sprinkled in, but it's largely Google.
Yeah.
This is the wild thing right now, is that I'm on Google searching for other search engines other than Google.
No, dude, Gabe, you're gonna break the system. No.
Another thing that's kind of crazy about Google is that they have an unspoken relationship that the Times covered pretty extensively last weekend with Apple, wherein all Apple searches done, or all iPhone searches done, are automatically processed on the Google search engine. So even if you're using Safari on your iPhone, it is still doing a Google search on Safari.
What?
Does that make sense?
I knew that. Wait, what? That's what it's been doing?
Yeah.
this entire time?
Yeah, this entire time. So if you do, if you do like goodorbit.com/Ponzi scream, then that will take you to the website directly using Safari. But if you go on your Safari web browser on your iPhone and click Good Orbit Ponzi Scream, that is doing a Google search. Okay, so that has been basically the relationship that the Times uncovered or was talking about, was the fact that Google, for nearly since the iPhone came out, Google has been just annually paying Apple billions of dollars, just like lump sum money, to allow for Google searches to be the default search engine on all iPhones, including Siri. If you do anything with Siri, when Siri's doing a search, it's doing a Google search. Yeah. So that is among the anti-competitive practices that are kind of being discussed and thrown around. So Obama tried to do this in 2012. He didn't really get very far for whatever reason. They just kind of, from what reporting has kind of said, it just didn't really, it just didn't really get, it just didn't get anywhere. They didn't get enough information. It didn't go far enough. Thank you. And they now, once the Democrats retook the House in 2019, they published this report, came out with these 12 steps for 3 of them each for the 4 companies. And now the Department of Justice is filing this suit against Google before the election.
That's such weird timing. I mean, like, I don't know why they would. I don't know. It's. I mean, like, thank you, Bill Barr. Like, I don't know. Like, like.
Yeah, I mean, it's what's interesting about the tech companies is the fact that it is not something that has a cultural signifier that conservatives can like hold on to. and they're not
Mhm.
big donors to red states, conservatives. They'll give to Republicans on like the national level, just like how the billionaires do in Brazil. They give to both parties just to hedge their bets. But they don't. They're not like California is where they're based. California is and will be for some time a blue state, and so long as that is true, these Republicans don't really hold any allegiances to big tech in the same way that they do to like agriculture and oil and gas and pharmaceuticals, things like that,
Mhm.
where they're based in those states, right? And they also big tech is like coastal and snobby and iPhone and Mark Zuckerberg and Barack Obama and all of these just things that are cultural signifiers that are very distant from, Republican cultural signifiers of like steak and gas and cars and whatever other things. So they kind of have some wiggle room to actually be more aggressive on antitrust if they want to. And so that is part, I think, of why they're doing it and why they kind of have the ability to do so, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is an irony there, especially because like the tech industry as a whole has infiltrated large portions of middle America or what have you. I mean, Austin, Texas, that's not middle America per se, but it's the South. They have a huge tech sector. Denver has a huge tech center.
Yeah, but those are in liberal areas that don't really,
That's true. I guess you're right about that. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like, it's not like those people are going to vote blue no matter who. Like, if you live in Austin, you're either not going to vote, unless you're an executive of a tech firm in Austin. So they're able to do it. I mean, it's like it's a very strange enemy of my enemy is my friend thing, wherein like all of a sudden you have these right-wing Republicans agreeing with Elizabeth Warren that Jeff Bezos sucks. Right? Like the president is just like shitting all over Jeff Bezos, and Iraq war proponent kinds of people are like, Jeff Bezos is good. Why you shitting on Jeff Bezos? Jeff Bezos is fine. He's an American and stuff. And then like all the people who are on the left and for some reason Trump supporters are like, no, Jeff Bezos really sucks. And it's just a strange, almost like bedfellow of these sorts of anti-tech folks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is interesting when it's somewhat legitimized when you do get Trump eventually doing his patented like he's a real bad guy. He's not good. He's not good. Look what he's doing. He's trying to take over your computer. He's trying to take it over. Get inside your email and talk to your daughter and your son. Yes. So you're right, David. Yeah, they definitely do. It's closer than we imagine.
Yeah. So I mean and it's weird that there hasn't been much antitrust movement in other sectors, but maybe if like ConAgra and I don't know what's some of these other big like industrial monopolies moved to California, then all of a sudden, Republicans from Iowa, Texas, and Missouri would be like, yeah, fuck those guys, they'll all of a sudden be huge anti-monopolists all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think that's one of the weird little backdoor ways to prosecuting them. It's I think it might be worth pointing out though that it seems like one of those things that would slip in under the radar without anybody noting. Like if you the only way you're going to actually persecute, drug companies, big agribusiness and what have you is if you do that to the tech companies first and then somebody like some very clever lawyer is like, I found precedent in this weird esoteric tech case. So
Right.
I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, you could see that. Yeah, that'd be interesting. It's just, but it's like a state attorney general, unless they have like a lot of clout or like high profile or have some like protection, they're doing it. So also like this lawsuit that Bill Barr is filing is also in concert with a bunch of other states that are filing a similar antitrust lawsuit against Google. And basically with antitrust, it has a redundant enforcement in that there's two agencies federally, the FTC and the attorney general that can enforce antitrust. And then
Mhm.
every single state attorney general can also enforce antitrust. And so there's like a bipartisan coalition of state attorneys general who are also participating in this. But I think that ultimately, if you're not working in a concerted fashion with other states, or if you don't have some high profile status, it's just too risky and it's too expensive and it's too political to go after domestic monopolists. It's just not really. I'm sure, like we've had, the state of New Jersey has had plenty of Democratic attorneys general, but they're not going to do antitrust stuff against pharmaceutical companies because big pharma is in New Jersey in a huge way. I
Yeah.
mean, that even affects Cory Booker. Cory Booker voted against some bill that would have allowed Americans to buy prescription drugs in Canada. And his excuse was, he said, well, because I think it would be dangerous because Canadian drugs are dangerous.
That's what I've always heard. They have no regulations up there, and they cut
No.
all the drugs that you could your Lipitor with arsenic. So you think you're just gonna lower your cholesterol and you're fucking up a creek without a paddle.
But Cory Booker is coincidentally also receiving enormous amounts of money from the pharmaceutical industry, as is any
What?
high-profile
No.
Democratic. Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, like any high-profile Democratic senator in New Jersey, I'm sure Bob Menendez is getting more than Cory Booker, but of course he is. And if he's not getting at an insane amount, he knows exactly where the jobs are, where the white-collar jobs are in northern New Jersey. And a lot of those are at these pharmaceutical, biomedical research firms and stuff. And that sort of stuff didn't affect Ted Cruz voted for so this is from 2017. It's just like I always think of it when I think of this sort of regulations on corporate entities. And this particular vote, Bernie put it out in like early 2017. He said, bill to allow for Americans to buy prescription drugs in Canada. Cory Booker voted against it. Ted Cruz voted for it.
That's so funny. I love that, man. I really love that.
It's
yeah.
I mean, does Ted Cruz is there a huge biopharma sector in Texas? And if so, do they support Republicans?
You don't understand, David. Cory Booker had to vote against this bill because the pharmaceutical industries have the very important task of keeping the Jersey Devil at bay in the Pine Barrens.
Yeah,
they have a very powerful force field keeping him in, and if you stop that, he's going to get out.
The price of insulin has to go up because we have to pay the witches off.
Yeah, the very haunted Pine Barrens.
Yeah,
yeah. I guess you guys aren't aware of GlaxoSmithKline's metaphysics department of research and development.
Yeah,
where they keep a coven on staff.
Yeah, it's really important because the Jersey Devil will devour your soul, and they will.
And without a soul, doesn't matter how much Lipitor you use.
Yeah,
you're up that creek without a paddle, baby.
Yeah, no.
I just want listeners outside of the tri-state area to remember and realize how weird Central New Jersey is. I would love to get that point across overall.
Yeah.
It's not just like forget about it, like across the river from New York. It's a bunch of weird stuff in the central part.
Yeah. So going back to Google though, what happened with Microsoft is they settled with their antitrust suit. But there was some report that came out from this firm called BCA Research, and they ran the numbers on past antitrust cases and found that companies that were forced to break up outperformed the market after they were forced to break up. Okay?
Really?
Yeah, because the market is looking at percentage growth. And if you are smaller, you can grow more. Like,
yeah.
Why are all these developing nations having, crazy higher annual GDP than the United States, which has been like stagnant, somewhere between 1.5 and 2.5 for the past 30 years? It's because China and India were getting 9% in 2010 because they had a lot more room to grow. And so basically the idea is, if you believe in capitalism being a competitive thing, being a competitive marketplace, and that being good, then breaking up is going to make the pieces smaller, which would allow for more growth.
Yeah, it's like having a zucchini plant where you're growing one really big zucchini and you're like, wow, that's pretty cool. It's going to get huge. But if you don't cut it, it's going to suck the life out of the rest of the plant.
Yes. I mean, the whole purpose, like antitrust is like this zucchini plant is too big for the garden.
Do you know the companies that like were big and then that got broken up into little guys?
Yeah. So Standard Oil was forced to break up in 1911. Okay. We've all heard of it, folks. And when the case was filed in 1906, their 1 month return of stock price relative to the benchmark, so how they were performing compared to everyone else, the average of everyone else, they were 15.8% below average in 1906. When they were forced to break up, they were 4.8% above performance.
Wow.
Okay? Yeah. American Tobacco, 1907, they were at negative 8.6. And when they were forced to break up in 1911, they were at 0.8%. So they were performing above once again. And it happened more recently with AT&T. In 1974, they were negative 3.1. And at breakup, they were at 8.9%.
Whoa.
Huge.
Jesus.
Huge. So this is like all for stuff that, it's important to always contextualize antitrust as this is all assuming that you think capitalism is good, that you think competition is fair, and that competition is like a way to have like a functioning economy. And within those parameters, antitrust is the mechanism for breaking up privately held power in this way.
And if you're on the left and
Yeah.
you don't want corporations to have too much power over every aspect of your life, it's still important to break things up and have a more diffused and less powerful group of petty tyrants.
Yeah. I think one interesting example I just thought of is like something like Boston Dynamics. Like they recently got bought by a big thing, right? Like I think they got bought by Google or Microsoft or something like that. But like Boston Dynamics is the company that makes those scary robot dogs that where you see a YouTube video of them every once in a while and you're like, that's too real. That's way too real. I do not like that. And it is so much more assuring to think of them as just like one tiny little company than being like, oh, they got bought by Google, so now Google's got the robot dogs now.
Oh yeah. Oh my god, yeah. So scary.
Yes.
Because all innovation just ends up getting sucked up into this like one company, right? Like if you think that innovation is created through competition, then if the only way you can succeed is to get bought by the monopolist, then you're not actually going to create any real innovation.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking, isn't that like the premise of Silicon Valley and in sort of this idea that young upstarts don't even care about making anything innovative? They're just trying to create apps to then get bought by the Borg, by like the biggest company that will then like crush the app instead of actually using it.
Right.
If it's like, so there's all these positive innovations that we've had that that will never see the light of day because
Right.
the big company doesn't. It would go against the bottom line of like Google
Or the big company
Apple.
will make like a cheaper basically like mimic, right? They'll make a carbon copy of the product and just steal the idea, and then when someone tries to file a patent suit, they'll just throw lawyers at them, and they have an unlimited army of lawyers, and just be able to stop them from stealing their idea. So it's just like it's they're either going to quash it or they're going to steal it.
Yeah, I mean, we're all adjacent to entertainment stuff as well, and this sounds just remarkably like what Hollywood literally does with like buying scripts from like young writers and stuff like that. Is they buy something And then that doesn't mean it gets turned into a movie or a television show. It means it can literally just be like shoved on the shelf, for all eternity. And it's like, okay, I got paid $10,000, but this was like my life's work, and it's just gone now. It feels so lifeless and pointless,
Totally. I want to go into one weird thing that was reported on by Adrian Jeffries at the Markup. To head off regulators, Google makes certain words taboo. This is from August, actually, and basically, this is everyone knew that they were facing this antitrust scrutiny from a long time ago with this House subcommittee report that was going to come down, and the Google lawyers sent out an email or to all Google employees. One of them said 5 rules of thumb for written communication, and part of it is saying words that you cannot say when you're communicating to anyone on Google property, whether it's to vendors or to third parties of any kind or internally, that might trigger antitrust scrutiny. Basically, they're saying, assume everything that is said will be read by a regulator. And bad words that you can't say. You can't say things like get ahead of competitors. You can't say things like defensive rationale, acquire a target before there is competition. And then you can't say things like cut off competitors' access to a target. And you can't say these things because that is the idea is that you don't want to give prosecutors ammo that you are trying to destroy competition.
Dude, that's why the word innovate got so popularized.
Hell yeah. One of the biggest words right now is resilience. You'll see that everywhere. That's a huge buzzword, especially in the time of pandemic. Like, is your city resilient? Is your business resilient? How's your business model? Is it able to withstand all of these fluctuations? I have a friend. I don't know if you guys read Keywords, The New Language of Capitalism, but it was written by John Pat Leary, and he used to have a blog called Keywords for the New Language of Austerity, and it's just all of the corporate jargon that you would imagine, all the euphemisms put out there to shore up these shitty business practices. So a couple words that he brought up are like a company calling itself nimble, robust, lean, or flexible.
No. Oh, no. Yeah. Anytime somebody says we'd like to be more nimble, that means we're about to fire 100 people immediately.
Yep.
I'm about to liberate your arms from your torso, man. It's going to be great.
I mean, whenever they say creative, that means they're trying to break the law. Yeah. And if they're saying like some outdated regulation, it's like, no, that's just a bribery statute. That still exists. You hear that a lot actually in the securities world, wherein, especially with cryptocurrencies think that they are creating this entire new theory of money, but basically they're either a commodity or a currency or a security, and they can't really be anything else, but they're like, oh, these are outdated terms. It's like, no, you can't. Money on an app is still money. It's ridiculous. Another a lot more corporate things that they weren't allowed to say. They can't say achieve massive scale. This is from the Google email. Instead, they're supposed to say increase user numbers to lower costs. You're not allowed to say things like what was it really quick? Sorry. Not allowed to say unmatched or unsurpassed. You're supposed to say valuable. It's not. So this thing called network effects, which is basically you have subsidiary products or subsidiary companies working together to create an entire walled off garden. Right? Like you have your Apple computer, your Apple phone, your Apple operating system, all of these things, these network effects to cumulatively be able to, have a huge swath of the economy.
So
right?
fully integrated software and hardware over multiple
Yeah.
products.
Yeah.
yeah.
And in like an economic lingo, it's like completely like upstream monopoly, right?
It's
yeah.
the closed system of the Snowpiercer train.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, you probably wouldn't be able to say fully integrated. They would probably not like that.
No.
They would hate that term.
So instead of that, you're supposed to say valuable to users. That's like that's the alternative.
I think it's worth noting too, and I'm reaching a little bit here, but this is how you create these like absolutely ridiculous CEOs in the first place. Like on one hand, you have Mark Zuckerberg, who is just sort of like this guy. He looks like a child who had his soul stolen. Like he's just never willing to say anything more. And then on the other hand, you have Jack Dorsey, who just looks like a cursed wizard who has a painting somewhere that shows his skeleton being ripped apart because he did too many Dorian Gray stuff, like too much of that. Yeah, you just get these and I mean, like, it doesn't matter if their real life is, like they actually do want to say all these things. It's weird. It messes with your brain as a consumer to just hear these guys just being like, everything is fine all the time. You're just constantly getting, I don't know, for lack of a better word, like gaslit about these kinds of things. It feels bad,
No one's ever really saying what they're thinking, right? Like when
Yes.
if you work for Google or Alphabet, the parent company, and you are talking about buying a competitor, you're not supposed to say the defense rationale for this acquisition is clear. Get ahead of the competition and cut off their access to the target's product. You're not supposed to say that because that's all antitrust bad. What you're supposed to say is the rationale for this acquisition is clear. Integrate the target with Google to improve our products for users. Like, you can't even, like, the lawyers want you to be so careful of antitrust scrutiny to avoid saying what you're actually doing, to the point that you can't even communicate clearly with colleagues over email, because that's proving what you're doing is probably illegal.
Dude, this reminds me of every Martin Scorsese mob movie or The Sopranos. Whenever anyone's on a phone call with Tony, it's like, you take care of that thing? You talk to that guy?
Yeah.
No, the other guy. About the other thing.
It'd be really good for our users if you talk to that guy.
Yeah. It's gonna be really good for yeah. It's gonna be really good for all of our affiliates. All of our friends.
It would be a beneficial user outcome of if our friend got integrated into the East River. That'd be really lovely if that happened.
Exactly.
But David, what this makes me just think about. We've talked about this before, but I learned this through doing the show that all of our anti-monopoly rules and regulations at this point aren't really about breaking up businesses. They're framed entirely around creating the lowest price for consumers. And so on one level, it sounds like it's good because we're paying less for things, but it's ethically, it's a race to the bottom, and it's sort of like disrupting, people from being able to, like businesses from actually being able to function fairly.
Yeah.
Right. So
you're largely right. I mean, like, Microsoft was under the Clinton administration and they weren't forced to break up. They had to settle. They settled, right? Even though Microsoft was clearly doing monopolist behavior at the time. It's not about size. It's not about competition. It's not about worker free choice. That's way too crazy. It is only about consumer price and about quality of the product itself. Those are the metrics, and that's why the Google attorneys are saying, don't talk about cutting off the competition. Talk about how integrating the competition would give more choice for the consumers or whatever. Like you're exactly right. It always needs to be framed as a pro-consumer move because our regime only cares about consumers.
Yeah, it's I honestly I really think this. I don't know why I didn't put it together before, but this whole antitrust situation, it completely illuminated why they talk like that. Like I just thought they were talking like that because they're douchebags, which they are.
Yeah.
They are They are San Francisco douchebags who like talking like that. But behind the sort of the crust of that situation is a very well defined legal framework.
Yes.
It is not just about being a yuppie. It is being like
Yes.
also, cover your bases.
Most cultural signifiers have underlying economic and legal rationales.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's not just about one thing or, it's not about, Blue Lives Matter isn't about being nice to cops who are killed. There's an underlying ideology underneath it, in the same way that integrating the target with Google to improve our products for users is a jargon that has an underlying legal protection.
And you're certainly gonna get your goofy actors who are part of that, who just they just like they grew up in that culture. That's their whole thing. So they don't think one way or about it. But don't get tricked. It's all for a reason. It's absolutely all for a reason.
It's interesting to see what's going to happen, especially knowing that Name Redacted won the election. What's going to happen, how they're going to continue this litigation after this, whether it was all some political theater just to drum up support one way or another with this antitrust suit. I actually don't really think that is the case. I don't really think that this was like some political theater that Bill Barr was doing, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
It seems reasonably bona fide, actually. We'll see, especially because it's just so bipartisan. And I don't know. And we'll just we'll see how it all plays out now that Name Redacted has won the election.
Yeah, man. Congratulations, Howie Hawkins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, stay swole, bro. And like I said, or like David and Gabe have been saying, we're recording this before the election. We don't know who's won. The only parting thought that I would
probably don't either, honestly. Like, let's be real.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, I've been in the time.
Know.
I've been in the time hole. I know. But like, I would only stress to our listeners, it's been 18 months. It's been 18 months of all this. And, regardless of what you believe, your ideology, just think that this was not a thing that used to happen. This is forced on us instead of actually dealing with real issues that people care about. We've been. I mean, think about it. The first debate between 20 Democratic people, that was in July of 2019. Like that's wild, man.
Wow.
Like that's crazy. I was in Seattle for the last week, and I kept seeing ads for Jay Inslee running for governor, and I was like, wait a minute, that guy ran for president. that guy was part of the Democratic Party, or the Democratic nominational. Like that's insane. Bill de Blasio, he was a presidential candidate.
When they were running for president, Gabe still had glasses.
That's true.
Yeah. So just remember that it's a specific coordinated attack on our minds, our mindsets, and to never let these losers forget that they lost. That's it.
Yeah, losers are losers. Anyways, that's Ponzi Scream. Listen, please like, listen, subscribe, and follow us on Twitter. Now we have a Twitter that is Ponzi _ Scream. What is that called? Underscore
handle or excuse me, yeah, underscore. It's underscore.
Yeah, Ponzi _ Scream. Follow us on Twitter now. We also have a Facebook page, a community page. If you guys want to like that, post any thoughts, we'd love to chat. And that's all I got this week, guys.
Yeah. If you want to, and if you have any questions, please post the Facebook page or Twitter, and we'll do our best to answer them and maybe even address them in the show.
Yeah.
'Cause that we want to communicate with the people who are asking questions.
Yep. One of
Yeah.
us is gonna lie to you, and the other two are gonna tell the truth.
That's right.
Uh-huh. Just,
I don't
guys,
mind.
rate, review, subscribe, share the podcast with friends that are interested in white-collar crime.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay. Good night.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.